In the previous lesson, we discussed the terms radius, diameter, and circumference. Remember, the short definition for radius was halfway across the circle. For diameter, it was all the way across the circle. And for circumference, it was the distance around the circle. So these were our 3 vocabulary words that we spent our last lesson discussing. What we're going to do today is we're going to see the connection between all of these terms. So if you can please open up your Google slideshow that's called Finding Pi. And together, we're going to be looking at a couple of examples, and I'm going to kind of walk you through the process so that you can complete it on your own. I've given you 2 different ruler options here. If you'd like to use the transparent ruler, we have a transparent ruler here for you to measure with, or we have a white ruler for you to measure with. The directions say, use the ruler provided to measure the diameter. So I want to go all the way across the circular object, and we're going to round to the nearest millimeter, and then we'll record our answer on our next page. So I want to start with the planet Earth. So I'm going to go over here, and I am going to drag my ruler over here, and I'm going to put this through the center of that object, line up my corners. See how my corner is lined up on the left? Okay, and then I'm going to go all the way through the center, and it looks to be about 7 millimeters. So that's really useful information. So my Earth my Earth is 7 millimeters. I also need to take note about what its circumference is. The circumference has been given to you of 29.98 millimeters. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that information and I'm going to go to slide number 2, and I'm going to go ahead and add that into my table. So we have Earth as the object. We have a diameter of 7 millimeters, and we have a circumference of 21.98 millimeters. Okay, so what you're going to do is for the remainder of those examples on your slide number 1, you're going to measure out each one of them. So you can use whichever ruler you'd like. You're going to measure out each one. You're going to document it and its circumference, and you're going to add it all on slide number 2. Then the next part that we're going to do is we're going to take that information and we're going to make a little bar graph to represent it. So if you look, I've already done an example for you. Let's say that I had an object that had a diameter of 20 millimeters and a 20 millimeter circumference. So this one happens to be the same. They're not all going to be the same, but this one just happens to be. So what I did was I used my little table here at the bottom. I went over to diameter of 20, and then from there I went all the way up to circumference. For my example for Earth, I'm going to use this bar real quick. And I'm going to go, I have a diameter of 7. So I'm going to go right here for my diameter of 7. Put it where that is. Let's see if I can drag that over. There we go. But I need to extend this to show 21.98. So almost 22 millimeters. So this one is a little bit above where it needs to be. Let's scooch it on over. Now, you can change the colors if you'd like to, or you can add yourself some new boxes. But what I want you to do is I want you to find your diameter and your circumference for each of the examples, the donut, the tire, and the Coca-Cola, and I want you to create a bar graph representing that information. Once you've done that, you'll go to the next slide. There's directions on each slide for you to read too. You'll go to the next slide and you're going to put those numbers into your table. So right now we're still discussing Earth. So I have Earth. It has a diameter of 7 millimeters. It has a circumference of 21.98 millimeters. And now what I want to do in this last box is I want to write that ratio. Okay, so 21.98 divided by the diameter of 7. And then I'm going to see what that equals. So I'm going to divide it out over here on my piece of paper. 21.98 divided by 7. And that's going to give me 3.14. All right, so then what it says to do in my directions is once I figure out the answer to all my ratios, I'm going to take those numbers, these answers that I have here, like this example is 3.14, and I'm going to average them out. So I'm going to add it up for the donut, for the Coca-Cola, and for the tire. I'm going to add them all up and I'm going to divide by how many numbers I added. And then I'm going to go through and answer all of the remaining questions. So I'll type my average in here. It says, what's the name of this? What do we call this? Mean, median, mode, range. What is that called? What we just did to find the average. Then I can go to the next slide and I want you to do a Google search and you're going to answer all of these different questions that I have for you. Okay, this is a very important grade, so please make sure that you're not skipping any of the steps because it all goes in a very specific order to make it easier for you. Okay, and then on this one, you're going to have to use some little dots and you're going to have to create yourself a little line graph that shows the relationship. Okay, and then this is your final slide. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. We will be here for you to help any way we can. All right.